For literally thousands of years, one name has echoed through history, a whisper of a golden age just lost to the waves: Atlantis. It's a mystery that has captivated pretty much everyone, from philosophers to explorers to just, us dreamers. But what if the clues to finding this legendary lost city have been hiding in plain sight this whole time? It all kicks off right here with the Greek philosopher Plato. Around 360 BC, he wrote these absolutely chilling words, describing a cataclysm that just wiped an entire advanced civilization right off the map. This is it. It's the only original source we have, and it sets a super dramatic and very, very specific stage. So what exactly was this city that vanished so suddenly? Well, according to Plato, the story of Atlantis doesn't even begin with people. It starts with a god who fell in love. Now, this is what's so fascinating. The level of detail Plato gives us is just wild. Poseidon doesn't just, find a nice island. He builds one for his love, Cleito. He carves out these perfect concentric rings of land and water, a feat of divine engineering, really. He even provides 2 springs for the land, one hot and one cold. Their very first son, Atlas, he becomes king, and his name is given not just to the city, but to the entire Atlantic Ocean. So you see, this isn't some vague fairy tale. Plato is giving us a very specific blueprint, almost like an architectural drawing. And all of this incredible detail leads us straight into the central debate that has been raging for millennia. Was Plato just recording a lost chapter of human history, or was he actually crafting something else entirely? This is the fundamental question, right? Was Plato basically a historian logging the tale of a real lost civilization? Or was he a philosopher creating this brilliant allegory? For every single person who has searched for Atlantis on a map, there's another who believes that map only ever existed in Plato's mind. Okay, so let's break down the 2 sides. The people who believe it's a true story, they point out that Plato claims the story isn't even his. He says it was passed down from his ancestor Solon, who heard it from an Egyptian priest who had access to these ancient records. And, get this, he gives a specific date for its destruction, 9,000 years before his time. But the moral fable camp has a really strong argument. Nobody else from ancient Greece ever mentions Atlantis. Not a single writer. They think Plato just made it all up as a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens when a powerful nation gets arrogant and corrupt and is ultimately punished by the gods. But even with these really powerful arguments that Atlantis was just an allegory, the possibility, just the idea that it was real, has fueled a global obsession. I mean, the thought of a lost golden age is just too tantalizing to ignore. And when I say global, I am not kidding. People have looked for Atlantis literally everywhere, trying to find some location and some historical event that perfectly fits Plato's dramatic description of its end. A few prime suspects have popped up over the years. Some people point to the Minoan civilization, which was devastated by a volcanic eruption around 1600 BC. Others have suggested Antarctica, proposing this wild idea of a cataclysmic shift in the Earth's crust that flash froze a once temperate continent. And then, of course, there are those mysterious underwater rocks near Bimini, and even a massive structure off the coast of Japan that some people are convinced is man-made. But today, we're going to focus on one candidate that has recently gotten some incredible traction. It's a location that, unlike the others, seems to match Plato's detailed blueprint with just jaw-dropping accuracy. A geological wonder in West Africa known as the Richat Structure, or, as you can see, the Eye of the Sahara. Okay, just look at this side-by-side comparison. It's incredible. Plato described concentric rings of land and water. The Richat Structure has a central dome and rings. Plato placed Atlantis south of the Atlas Mountains. Guess where the Richat Structure is? South of the Atlas Mountains. He mentioned hot and cold springs. Well, the area's volcanic geology is known for creating exactly that kind of thing. He even noted the city was built from red, black, and white stone, all of which are found right there in the eye's geology. There's even evidence of massive salt deposits, which suggests it once had access to the sea. The coincidences are just staggering. But hold on, a matching geography is only half the story. For this whole theory to really work, the timeline also has to fit. Could a real-world cataclysm explain that single day and night of misfortune Plato talked about? Well, the answer might be buried in our planet's really dramatic climate history. Okay, so we need to talk about an event called the Younger Dryas. Basically, it was a mini ice age that lasted for about 1,300 years. But the key part isn't the cold snap itself, It's how it ended. It ended abruptly, causing this sudden and catastrophic global warming event. And this is where it gets truly unbelievable. The Younger Dryas ends around 11,600 years ago. This causes unimaginable floods from melting glaciers all over the world. Now, what was the date the Egyptian priest gave for the destruction of Atlantis? 11,600 years ago. It is a perfect match. And what's more, science now tells us that at this time, the Sahara wasn't a desert at all. It was a green, lush savanna, the perfect place for a civilization to thrive. The physical evidence for this megaflood is literally carved into the African landscape. We're finding marine fossils hundreds of miles inland. There are even giant ripple marks, like the ones on a beach, but on a continental scale. This could totally explain Plato's strange comment that after the disaster, the sea became an impassable barrier of mud. This event might even be preserved in myths that are older than Plato, like the ancient Egyptian story of a chaotic primordial ocean called Nun, from which the world was born. So, when we piece all of this together, the story of Atlantis starts to look a whole lot less like a myth and more like a lost piece of history, just passed down through generations. You see, the power of this particular theory is that it doesn't just rely on one little piece of evidence. It weaves together Plato's detailed story with modern geology, with cutting-edge climate science, and even with other ancient myths into a single, really compelling narrative. So what are the big takeaways here? First, Plato's story isn't some vague legend. It's a super detailed blueprint. Second, the Richat Structure in Africa is a stunning geographical match for that blueprint. Third, the scientific timeline of a real-world catastrophic flood perfectly, and I mean perfectly, aligns with the date Plato gave for Atlantis' destruction. And finally, the Sahara was once a green, vibrant landscape, totally capable of supporting the kind of advanced civilization he described. Ultimately, whether the Eye of the Sahara truly is the location of Atlantis, well, it's still a theory. But it forces us to ask a really profound question. If a civilization this advanced could be so completely erased from the map and from our memory, remembered only in a story told by a philosopher thousands of years later, what else have we forgotten? How many other chapters of human history have just been washed away by time?
Health is the most precious gift. If this video helped you or someone you love, please like, subscribe, and share so more families can stay safe and healthy.